actually have a vulnerability in their team that people can exploit and get at. And teams need to be willing to do this now before the weakness goes, before Rodri is back in that starting lineup in defensive midfield, breaking up play and preventing teams from being able to score. He's banned for 3 games. He misses Wolves, he misses Arsenal, and he misses Brighton. And last night against Newcastle, we saw how much Man City struggle without Rodri. It's not to say City were bullied. It's not to say that Newcastle weren't dominated the period of that game. I think for the first half of the match, you could say that City should have scored, deserved to be winning. They had good chances. Alvarez with his swing and a miss. Vardiol could have scored at the back post for them. But Newcastle showed heart and desire and showed that if you're willing to defend as a unit and commit to your tackles the way Livramento did, the way Dummett did, the way Target did, the way Lascelles did, you can win against Manchester City. And now, because of that victory, City do not have the chance to win quadruple. And that is something that they have wanted since Pep Guardiola arrived at the club, arguably. They have had numerous chances to do it, and a team has always stepped up to the mark and denied them. And now Newcastle showed that it might just not be the Carabao Cup that they struggle in. So, by no means am I suggesting that Man City are a weak team without Rodri. They still have some of the greatest players the Premier League's ever seen, and this is still arguably the greatest team the Premier League has ever seen. It's always been a case of you remove one player, another player steps in. A player gets injured, someone else will come in. They have such a good squad and they've got a good enough team to field 2 starting 11s that could easily dominate English football. However, one position where you take someone out and cannot like for like replace them, or even closely replace them, it's not striker, it's not the goalkeeper, it's defensive midfield. Rodri is miles ahead of Calvin Phillips. Pep Guardiola knows it, the Man City fans know it, and every football fan of the Premier League knows it. Calvin Phillips is a great player if he was playing at Leeds, if he was playing at maybe Aston Villa. But for Man City, he does not fit the system that Pep Guardiola wants to play. And therefore, he struggles to maintain possession of the ball. He struggles to match the intensity of the players around him. And he's just not an effective unit when he's put into that side. Last night against Newcastle, we saw it. He really, really struggled in that game. And I think it was a bit of an acid test for him. I think this was the game to see that if he was able to perform and able to dominate that Newcastle midfield, he'd maybe start against Wolves. However, the result and the manner of which Newcastle were able to go about it, I don't think he starts. Now, to play devil's advocate for City, they did make a lot of changes. But the players they brought in, the players who started, were still good enough to beat this Newcastle team that made 10 changes to their last game. So just to go through the lineups, I'll put them on screen now. Man City started with Ortega, Akanji, Gvardiol, Nathan Ake, Rico Lewis, Calvin Phillips, Gomez, Bob, Kovacic, Grealish, and Alvarez. Now, of that team, you can't tell me that maybe barring Dodd, maybe Gomez, Rico Lewis is still a little bit unproven, and obviously Phillips. The rest of them have been in treble winning teams who dominated sides. Most of those players, and I include Rico Lewis in this one actually, could get into a lot of other Premier League teams, a lot of European teams. And then you look at the Newcastle starting lineup: Nick Pope, Livramento making his debut, Lascelles, not a good player for where Newcastle need to be a Champions League fighting team. Dummett, Target, backups. Tonali, yeah, brilliant, not a problem. Joelinton, okay. Miley, a youth player in this game. You can't tell me, you're telling me City couldn't have got at him. Murphy, Isak, and Lewis Hall. If I pitched both of those teams to you, which one is the better team? Which one has the better players? Which one has players who are experienced in not only the Premier League but Europe and have experience in winning European football, experience in winning the Champions League? City, without Rodri, fielding a team that lacks that glue in defensive midfield, struggle. It was the case when Fernandinho was there. Fernandinho goes, Rodri steps in. Who's the Rodri replacement? Who's the man who can come in when Rodri is not there? Because Calvin Phillips is not that man. He doesn't have the ability that Rodri does. And when we saw Calvin Phillips start yesterday, Pep had to play a completely different system. Rico Lewis was playing almost that Trent Alexander-Arnold role. He was an inverted fullback who was having to come into midfield and help cover, and that left them vulnerable on the wing. That is where all the attacks came from. We saw it a couple of times. Players were cutting inside, causing problems for City on the wings. And Joel Linton was able to waltz through the middle of the park onto the edge of the box and cross it to Isak, who was at the far post, where, because Rico Lewis has had to come inside into the inverted fullback role, he was not covered, he was not marked. And it shows that because Calvin Phillips is in that team, it's a hindrance to the Man City side. They do not have a defensive unit in midfield when he's there, nor do they have one when he's not there. They're in a bit of a catch-22 situation where there is no one there who can fill the role and come in and provide defensive nous to cover the back line. Nunez, Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, Foden, if he drops into midfield, none of them are a defensive-minded player. Nunez is probably the most defensive of them all, and even then, he's better going forward. We saw that at Wolves. They are in trouble with this team at the moment. Now, to caveat this, it is only for 3 games, and we've seen City win the league without a striker. We've seen them win the league when their best centre back's been injured. We've seen them win the league when they, with 100 points, when it was Pep Guardiola's second season and he still didn't have the full squad that he wanted. So by no means am I suggesting that this City team is weak. It's still the best team in the world. And we know it. Everyone knows it. But this is a chance for teams to beat them, take the 3 points off of Manchester City and make the league more competitive and open. Arsenal face City without Rodri. Arsenal's best positions on the pitch are attacking positions. You've got Saka, Martinelli, Erdegaard, Vieira, Gabriel Jesus, and Nketiah. All these players can bully that Man City midfield and defence. As long as you are able to get at them, give them a go, and commit to your tackles, winning the second balls, like Newcastle did last night with Livramento winning every tackle that he committed to, you can get at them and beat them and take 3 points away from them. City's biggest advantage that they have going into games is not the players, it's not the manager, it's the mental effect they have on teams. You're beaten before you go in because you believe that you're going to lose the game. City can be got at, and this is a chance for teams to turn around, turn up at the Emirates, at the Etihad, and have a go at it. 3 games 3 games to get at Manchester City and potentially take 3 points off them. This chance might not come around again. Rodri started 56 of 60 games last season, or at least he featured in 56 of 60 games for Man City last season. That's how important he is to the team, and that's how match fit he is as well. Now, I do remember him saying at the end of last season, "Look, I've played so many games. I'm tired. It is, we play a lot." Pep's not listened because he's played every game this season. And that shows how integral Rodri is to this Manchester City team. And I keep saying it over and over again. But Pep is a man who will play his best players. Haaland will always play. Ederson, barring the cup games, will always play. Rodri will always play because he is the most important player in that team alongside the players I mentioned and Kevin De Bruyne. He's massive for that side. And without him, I think there's nervousness in the Manchester City team. This is a chance to widely affect the league. It is only 9 points, true, but 9 points is a lot nowadays in football. We've seen City, we saw it last season, they trailed Newcastle by a hefty amount at times. We saw it against Liverpool a few seasons ago. We were miles ahead of them, and then they came back and won the league. So they do still have it in, and I'm not suggesting that these 9 points are going to miraculously shape the fabric of the league and change who's going to win and affect absolutely everything. But it still needs to be taken advantage of, especially by Arsenal. Get at them, make a game of it. Don't go in with the fear factor that you're going to get beat, because without Rodri, they still have world class players, but their spine is weaker and they can be got at. Thank you for watching this video. It turned into a bit of a passionate rant, but again, appreciate the support. Please like and subscribe.